Hello, everyone. My name is Jack, and welcome back to our final episode for the season on Signalis. Today, I am joined by my co-host Joel and our returning two guest stars, Dan and Felix. How's it going, everyone?
Going good.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Pretty good. Excited to be back.
Yeah,
I'm so excited to finish this, man. This is what we've been waiting for.
that's what we've been talking about.
Wait, we weren't finished?
I mean,
No, we weren't. Surprise,
Why
surprise.
are you doing this here?
The fake out ending got him again. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta play the game, buddy.
Game is game.
Do not game is game.
Well, anyway, on this final episode, we are going to be covering all the endings for the game, the true endings, I should say. Everything past the fake out ending. So there will be some things that overlap, but this is truly where our experiences will probably diverge from each other and where everything in the game truly starts together. So this is probably going to be a very in-depth episode, to say the least, but I'm excited to see where it takes us.
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess should we just start it off?
Yeah. First and foremost, you were right though. We did miss something last episode that we should probably at least touch on. We can go in more depth later because it shows back up, but we should probably talk about that red gate.
A red gate. That crazy red gate. At the bottom
Well, let's
of
see.
the mine shaft. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, Dan, since you were the one to you brought it up to me after I posted episode 2. Would you like to just briefly touch on the red gate, like what you had in mind at the end of last episode?
Oh well, sure. Well, I was rewatching the episode, and the background you chose was like the red gate image. I was like, wow, it's crazy that that's such a big symbol in the game, and we just kind of forgot about it. We just moved on straight on to the cutscene after. Because I think that whole scene where you meet Adler at the red gate, and you wonder what's beyond the threshold. I think it's just really interesting to kind of talk about what the red gate represents, because clearly it's like a point. It's not a point of no return, because Falca goes beyond it and then comes back, or maybe it is, or maybe it's a path into memory, or maybe I wonder what you guys think the red gate kind of symbolizes in Signalis and physically what it is in the world, especially because it is a very interesting design in terms of like cultural connections and stuff.
Yeah. I'm certainly more partial to the interpretation of it being a gateway into memory.
That's what I thought it was as well.
Or a signification of a new loop, a loop coming to an end. Like, it's always there every single time you loop forward, but things deteriorate around it. It's like a constant in a state of, in the spiral, if that makes sense. There are a lot of constants in the spiral of Signalis. Like, you've got two lovers looking for each other, stuff like that. Maybe the red gate is something like that. I don't know. It was super visually arresting. I can definitely say that. But yeah,
I like that thought process for sure. I will say, probably on like my first and even second playthrough, how I see it is I like the term threshold, but I also kind of see it as like a goal line, right? Because in the beginning of the game, like the very, very beginning of the game, you do walk through the gate, but it's not red at the time, but it leads to the hole that leads down into all of this insanity and madness, like out in the snowy tundra. And then, you kind of get the feeling that you've made it to your goal once you get to the gate. It's kind of like a start and finish line. And I think that goes in. Yeah, I think it goes in well with the loops too. Like it's the start of one and the end of one.
Yeah, I never really felt like I was getting a goal when I got to that red gate. I don't know. The goal to me was in that cutscene when we got to the Penrose, if that makes sense, and then we couldn't hit the goal because our arm was ripped off and we fell. That to me was like end goal. The red gate was almost like a signifier of things to come, if that makes sense. Yeah. A constant point that you always return to, but there'd always be more after that. Either another loop, which you don't know it's a loop at the time, unless you're a gigabrain genius and you can you predict what's going to happen. But yeah, I never really saw that as like a finish line per se. especially since Adler's there and he's hyping up. If you step beyond this, there's more. You'll make everything worse. You can't step beyond this kind of thing. It's almost like that is. I do like the word threshold. A threshold for deterioration, or a threshold for stepping into memory, or something like that.
I like you saying memory there, because something I was thinking about is if you take like the whole bioresonant idea, and that as Elster we are going back to get our memories. I think it kind of raises an interesting idea. Well, no, I'm getting really ahead of myself. But this episode, I certainly want to bring up the idea that Ariane's bioresonance is kind of overriding certain things.
Oh, it definitely is.
Yeah. Is this like the point where, if you cross the gate, it's just that you kind of cease being who you are and you kind of become a version of something of Ariane's? Because Falca crosses and comes back, and then she starts kind of, turning into Ariane all over again, etc. So I think it kind of, if this is the point where reality stops being real, I don't like that term, but it stops being uncorrupted maybe by Ariane's bioresonance.
See, I think it starts even earlier though, and sadly we have to talk about our favorite level, Nowhere. I mean, that place is heavily drawing off of Ariane's trauma at school, because you get that first person perspective cut of her getting bullied way earlier than that. So you're already traveling through a quote unquote, not quote unquote, a corrupted reality, right? To begin with. I do think once you pass through that gate, there's strong textual evidence to say that is the point of no return, I guess. And if we're going in terms of Jack's analogy, that is the finish line for reality. Sure, definitely. You're already getting weird shit beforehand where the bioresonance is messing with stuff. That point you've sort of stepped into, I guess the shimmer from Annihilation is a good example there, a good parallel. Guys have read that or seen the movie, both of which
Can't say I have.
Both are pretty good, very good sci-fi.
Something I think about with this threshold, I've mentioned before I kind of see things in intangible ways, but I can't deny the fact that Nowhere definitely felt like the first true step outside of reality. And so I'm willing to admit that stepping outside of reality happens a lot sooner in the game than simply hitting the fake out ending and doing another loop. But one thing I feel like with this game, whenever you are in the threshold and you see all these black pillars and a red sea of sand and nothing, and the Penrose is out there, I kind of see it as almost how do I put it? It's outside any kind of perceived time. It's its own reality, its own entity, if you will. Kind of like a hub area for this whole process.
I definitely agree with that, actually. When you're saying pillars and sand, I'm a part of me. There are two things that I would draw comparisons to. My first playthrough, I'm a big Bloodborne fan, dear listener. Probably the biggest Bloodborne fan, sadly.
Number one in the world, yes, sir.
Yeah,
cries every time there's a state of play.
Yeah, I cry every time. And then I threaten Sony. I don't actually do that. Please, please don't cease and desist us, Sony. No, but the Hunter's Dream, it's got all these pillars to different worlds, to different dreams, and that is explicitly a state out of time. Now, am I saying that they made the Hunter's Dream here? No, but it's a cool little comparison. It also looks like I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name correctly, but Slavoj Bezinski, I think. His art, a lot of times, is these large deserts, dreamlike deserts, with nightmare creatures and large, almost bone pillars, osseous pillars, stretching up into this tainted skyline. He was capturing a lot of his dreams, and some people view it as modern depictions of hell to an extent, but not really. It's more surreal than that. But a lot of times it's his work conveys this feeling of being in a, I hate to say liminal reality, because it's more than just a backrooms thing, but sort of a place between places, somewhere that is outside the bounds of time, which is essentially a liminal work. But the word kind of lost a little bit of meaning, in my opinion.
Oh, with the whole back room. Oh, in the back rooms, guys. It's in the back rooms. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
No, I fully agree on the loss of the word liminal. I was actually looking at a video from Liam Triforce recently on YouTube. Typically known for like doing Zelda videos. He actually was doing a whole like perception on like a Silent Hill series, and he did bring up a great point on that. Like the word like like Dan mentioned, the back rooms is like the notorious example here, but like liminal it should be in more reference to like not as like being outside of time, but also like familiar enough in a way where you can't pinpoint like exactly what era of time it is. Like I also look at like Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. It feels like a certain era of time, but I can't place it. Like it doesn't feel like a place that would have a telephone like set in its setting, but it does.
Yeah. But talking of kind of Arion's influence, something else, I was not smart enough to think of this, and perhaps it's something that's really obvious, and I was supposed to get it, which is definitely very possible. But I was watching a video, and I'll find out who it is so I can plug them at the end. But and they said nowhere. One of the reasons they assumed it was the shape it was with the very Silent Hill inspired fleshy aesthetic was that it was kind of mirroring Arion's space. And again, this is a little ahead of ourselves, but I think it's still pertinent to say right now of the kind of radiation poisoning and tumors and kind of body horror and flesh, melting that she's going through, and that's why it becomes such a jumbled tumor-like kind of a liminal space. Using the phrase there, which I thought was very cool. I don't know if I buy it 100%, but it's a very interesting idea.
I buy mostly. Like I definitely think there's some intentionality, especially that one puzzle room with the plates that you have to put in Nowhere, where there's those two big beating mounds, stuff like that. And maybe that's just because I've played a lot of all of the head horror games, where it's like, guys, the big twist, he had cancer and he's depressed. All in the head. And like they're that's often used sometimes to just be like a direct metaphor. Like I'm thinking of what is that one? It's a GZ Doom mod. Shoot, I'll think of it later. But they do something similar where you're descending into this mine. Actually, that's really interesting how they both play on mines. And you end up in one level shooting these weird flesh growths, and it's revealed at the end, this guy had a cancer diagnosis, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. It's common, I won't say a common trope, but like it is language that games use a lot of times when they're doing this. So I wouldn't say it's far-fetched at all to agree with that.
Moral of the game, cancer's a bitch.
The moral of the game actually was that he needs to not be depressed, kind of, and like reevaluate his life and not listen to his it's actually pretty good, honestly, about fighting depression or whatever. Good game, recommend, fun. I wish it was more literal though. I'm kind of getting sick of the all in the head trope.
Fair. Well, I think at this point I think we're ready to segue into the post fake out ending, guys.
Definitely. We kind of already touched on that.
Quite a bit. I think it's time we go all in now. Okay. So anyway, now that we're segueing into the post fake out ending, you're back in the menu. You think the game is over if you're Felix, and then all of a sudden you click new game because you're like, I'm ready for a second playthrough. Or you got buddies telling you, hey buddy, you might want to click that button, So you jump in, all of a sudden, surprise, surprise, it's more game. Let's go! Woo! I'm so excited. So, story beats. You wake up, you're back on the Penrose, but now it's different. Things feel more lively, like the lighting is actually in. It feels homely inside. You walk around the ship and you're actually finding art pieces around the place. Notably, some of them are Shores of Oblivion and Isle of the Dead.
Yeah.
So interesting that those show up again. But I've ragged on about those paintings quite a bit already, so I'll spare my breath. But to me, exploring the ship feels so charming.
It is.
the whole game throughout like the regular run, on when you were like first started out on the Penrose, it felt lonely and abandoned and like unsettling, of course, but like it's so nice to see it like actually be lively now, like
Yeah.
someplace habitable, and it's just fun. You walk around more and you find Arian's note next to a painting of the Shores of Oblivion, and Arian leaves notes around saying that she loves films, but they're either war propaganda or war propaganda related films. Of course, we've already talked a lot about nationalism and authoritarianism, so like makes sense with what we've been seeing so far.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Elster doesn't. She mentions Elster doesn't like them apparently because of her past life, and so
Mm.
we've already seen a lot of files surrounding replicants and like their fetish items and
Mm.
what you shouldn't be feeding them. But now we're actually getting a look into Elster, who I think honestly I know like I processed in my mind throughout the whole game that she's a replicant, but I definitely see her as you know capable of being human more than just
Mm.
some kind of autonomous
Definitely.
android. And I think
Mm.
that's kind of what the game goes for to put you in like Arian's mindset.
Yeah, definitely. Though I don't know. I don't have the same experience with you because again I viewed all of the replicas as like fully human to an extent. Uh, Obviously made of metal, right? And can replace limbs and stuff like that. But all of them express emotion, stuff like that. At least
Mm.
every single one that you meet in the game, especially through the green process. Now you could make the argument that that is because of Ariane's influence on the Serpinski, which is something that we can definitely talk about.
Mm.
I tend to not buy it as much because
Mm.
again, I think the commentary of we were talking about the proletariat last episode. Daniel, you were specifically.
Yes,
I
sir.
think
Yes.
I think that is
Mhm.
lost if these things are unfeeling, kind of thing.
Mm.
Or becomes a lot more challenging as critique. Like it becomes much harder to get your point across if I was to argue for the rights of machines in an Amazon factory that are unfeeling kind of thing, like
Mm.
the things that would a canning machine, for instance. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody like care if I say, we should give the canning machine a 9 to 5 instead of making it work 24/7.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. But going now that you mention all the other replicants like having emotion, I want to make a distinction here because the game provides this information, and it's that Elster's neural pattern was based off of a Nedan soldier, and
Yeah,
the documents go on to say don't treat the Elster as a human at all, even in speech. Do not talk to the Elster unit. Do not interact with them. Let them do their business and get on with the day.
Yeah.
Mm.
Which is just I don't know. It's so interesting to me how like we've interacted with like all the other replicant units so far, but we're the only Elster unit that we've seen around, and
yeah.
they feel so
Yeah.
special in a way because it's like because you don't typically interact with an Elster, there's like a mystery surrounding them, like a mystic aura.
I mean, maybe you could argue it's because of like the neural pathway being harder on her.
Mm.
Like that's why she reacts negatively to the propaganda films. It's sort of like a phantom PTSD because Elster didn't serve in the war, but her neural pathway did.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right? There was
Yeah.
reminder
Yeah,
of combat that she'd never seen.
Yeah.
You could also maybe read it.
Crazy.
It's been a minute since I've read the Elster logs, but like Elsters were kind of the secret police, right? Kind of, or am I wrong?
maybe
I
I
don't
don't.
Elsters,
remember.
Elsters, I thought were just maintenance, weren't they?
I thought
Am I
so too.
crazy?
Yeah, no,
Maybe.
I have it here. A lot of what's on the Penrose after the post fake out ending has a lot to this is really where like a lot of the pieces like become tied together. I have more stuff to go on, but I do have in here mostly like the Elster units. Like they were chosen because like they're great under pressure, and they're very focused. They don't need a lot of like emotional support or anything. Like they're very like task oriented, do their job, which
Mm.
makes them the perfect like replicant for the Penrose program.
Mm.
Yeah. And as you find more notes, um, I found some notes where Arian has details on how Issa and Eri used to talk. Uh, so meaning she knows Iza, and that in the medbay there's messages from HQ congratulating the journey of Penrose and detailing how preserving Replicant is better than trying to prolong the pilot. I thought that was just fitting. You actually get direct messaging from like the higher ups of like the bourgeoisie in a way, and they're just kind of like, yeah, you're just kind of a pawn in all this. Just help your replicant unit survive.
Yeah.
It's like you'd probably be better off like just ending your suffering now instead of later.
Yeah, just they're kind of just like kill yourself. You did your job. Well done. That was. I didn't even know like how to respond to that. I was like, God damn, that is.
Well, and then later you come back to the ship when it's all dilapidated again, and it's just like you find the notes where it's like, congratulations on the Penrose program. By the way, there's no chance of return. So if you haven't found a place to settle, you might just have your replicant pull the plug for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god,
that was crazy.
That whole part, that whole dilapidated Penrose was such a gut punch. My god, that might be my favorite part of the game. It was crazy.
I know. It's like it just all ties together. But this right here, guys, is the moment where we finally meet Ariane, like for the first time, like truly.
Yeah.
She has her white hair and she comes over and she hugs Elster, and she's in the middle of painting and they kiss. Lesbian love story. I love it. But I just gotta say, in this moment, holy shit, Elster is so tall.
She's like what, like 7 feet? She's huge.
Dude, I'm like, holy crap.
Dude, oh my god. Being on the Signalis subreddit, they really like that Elster is taller than Ariane. Let's just put it that
way. Wait, no, I just looked it up. She's only 5'10". Ariane is just tiny. My god.
Wait, what?
For some reason I thought Elster was like huge.
You're right. She's 178 centimeters. What the fuck?
What?
Hold up. Let's pull her up. Ariane Young. They don't tell us the height. We can't get the height. Oh
short
my.
Queen.
Oh, Falca is 8'2". Maybe I just like
bro. Falca is 8'2". I saw that yesterday, one of the other days. Yeah. That's crazy. 250 centimeters.
Adler 5'7", my king.
Ridiculous.
Dude, Fox height with like those like non-existent feet. She's just like walking around on her ankles. At least it perceives. Like just the way like the sprite work is done. Like it does not look like they have feet. They look like they're just like on stilts.
They have hooves, I believe.
Hooves?
Yeah, hooves. I'm pretty certain. At least that's how
cool. I never noticed that. But that's really good.
I buy that, which I kind of like a lot better because I was playing some Silent Hill 1 last night, and I just want to say that Harry Mason, his feet look like freaking like he's in stompers with like duck feet.
Okay. He's got the stompers on. Call him Nath Ninja from Valorant fame.
I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I like the hooves better. Also, I think it's just kind of like funny how it's like in the way they design. They're like, they don't need feet, whatever. Like just. Also, it was probably good on the editors seeing that this is mostly female characters in the game. Like 9 times out of 10, don't wanna introduce anything to the internet,
It was, but like going back to that scene, like of meeting Ariane for the first time.
Yeah.
It's so sweet. Oh my god, it's so.
Oh, the
I don't
dancing.
know. I think it's the lighting, the dancing, the music. It sells it.
It's the only like good scene in the entire game.
The whole thing. The only non-fucked up scene.
Yeah. How I knew it was a trap. As soon as like something sweet started happening, I was like, no, this ain't gonna last. This is awful. this
2 seconds and it's done.
And sure enough, it doesn't, because as soon as they fall asleep in each other's arms, the ship starts reading Achtung, Achtung, and lists the numbers again.
Achtung.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so suddenly you're back to the red and Ariane appears. She comes in and says, "Do you remember our promise?" Much like the beginning of the game, I think this truly, like the looping is happening once again. That's where we truly see it in effect. And the save sound effects play, and Elster moves to the Penrose after waking up once again. She's bleeding out. Life is like, fighting to stay alive in her. and there's she jumps into the Penrose. It's dilapidated now, and she like walks around the ship. You're in control now, and there's flesh around the cryo. Elster replaces her parts and says she will do anything. Uh, and so, dude, I love that whole sequence where it's just like the intensity. You can feel it. Like there's only one thing running through Elster's mind, and she's just like stripping parts off like a previous life of hers and like putting them on herself.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's hardcore. That's genuinely
It's
so good.
crazy.
Yeah, it is really cool. One thing I wanted to point out, I guess, as well, before we leave that sweet moment that I forgot to do, it sort of cements their love together as like inherently rebellious to the system that they're in.
Yeah.
You know, Ariane not only is breaking all the rules with the Elster unit, but she herself is breaking a ton of rules by being so into art that she is. Even if the art is bad, like propaganda films, you know, she's still interested in it and is trying to create her own with those paintings. You could even argue that like the Isle of the Dead and stuff like that is her paintings, and we're recurring into Ariane. I don't know if that's true or not, because Signalis, it feels like a universe out of time to an extent, because I don't think they have the same amount of planets as we do. Though we can draw analogs, right, with Rotfront being Jupiter, and what was the other place that was definitely Mars?
Not Veneta. I think Veneta was the ocean world.
Veneta could be Venus as well. That's like terraform Venus with oceans and stuff like that. But
yeah.
But point being, art, very important. Shows rebellion. Hooray.
Yeah. Well, and I like that idea of like, love being rebellion. I think it's another one of those takes that's similar to I can't help but think of Jojo Rabbit by Taika Waititi, that scene where Scarlett Johansson's talking to I forget the actress's name, but she's talking to the Jewish girl that they're harboring. And she's like, as long as you stay alive, they haven't won.
Yeah.
So I think as long as their love is alive, the oppression has not won.
Which makes it all the more worse, honestly.
All the better. Oh, I can't wait to disagree with you in 30 minutes. Oh my god.
I mean, it makes it thematically really good, but it's depressing as hell because their love. Well, we'll talk about it.
We'll get there.
We're gonna get there.
Also,
we'll
get there. Taika Waititi, isn't it crazy how he makes Jojo Rabbit and Thor Ragnarok, and then makes Thor: Love and Thunder and Last Goal Wins or something like that?
Bro,
hey, I liked Next Goal Wins. That was a good movie.
That's good. It's okay.
I saw Thor: Love and Thunder in theaters, bro. Oh my god. Oh my god.
That was bad.
Actually. It was goated. What are you talking about? I love. I can't remember a single joke. Oh wait, no, I love the screaming goats. I love the goats.
Oh yeah, that was goats. so enjoyable.
Or his jealous axe.
His jealous
axe.
Oh my god, that's so peak.
Dude, man.
I did like Jane Foster. I thought she did okay, but like the script was not there for her, which sucks.
No, it wasn't, unfortunately.
Yeah. But anyway, back to better media.
So we're we have the whole dance sequence, the moments that make me go, heck yeah, this is it. We're about to finish this game. We're ramping up. And so we go to one last pit and we jump down it. It's fleshy. Before jumping, Elster says, I've come too far now. The game asks you to keep going, ? It just feels so like straight to the point now. Like, this is it. You know your mission. Yeah. You've got one thought. Let's do it. So you jump down and you have one last cutscene where you're on the shores of Oblivion once again. Notes describe something older than humanity. And then you find more and it just goes over and over. Kill me. Kill me. Kill me.
Oh my god, dude.
Yep. But it's at this point,
that was creepy.
It's at this point that I think, that Rose Engine, like, once again makes that distinction between the Shores of Oblivion, and the Isle of the Dead, because there's a ferry on the beach. And in the Isle of the Dead, it can be seen that supposedly Chiron from the River Styx
Yeah.
is the ferryman. But evidently you are going, to the Isle of the Dead.
Yeah.
And so it's at this point, Capital 3 just stalls their or it's called just stalls their fall begins, and then you end up on Rotfront. Or no, wait, sorry. Let me back up a bit. We're not on Rotfront at this point. We're back at the beginning of the Sierpinski, but things are a lot bloodier, and it's the flesh consuming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to go for a while before you get to the best music in the game. Hands down.
Wait, which track is that for you?
Cigarette Wife, dude. I love Cigarette Wife so much.
3,000 cycles. I missed you. I'm sorry. Unbeatable. Unbeatable.
I do love 3,000 Cycles. I missed you. But Cigarette Wife, dude, that's peak Signalis for me. When you're riding the elevator down to the rock front.
True.
That's peak.
Bro, it's all the entire soundtrack is just so
yeah. I feel bad because I haven't mentioned the soundtrack that much up until now, till the last episode. But guys, if there's a reason to play this game, it's the soundtrack. Like, if you need more than just what we've gone over, everything is so good.
I feel like anyone who is now in like hour 5 of a Signalis multi-series podcast, they're gonna play Signalis if they haven't already. Anyone who's here, you've played Signalis. Let's be real.
There's some people who just like put on these things and just like sit there. They don't even like they don't play the game afterwards. They I'm gonna experience the media through these jackasses instead of myself. And
they sit there with a glass of bourbon.
As cool as we are, please, if you haven't played it, play it.
Yeah, play the game,
please. And so, as we were saying, we're back on the Sierpinski now, and it's kind of like the same story beats from the top floors. You quickly run around, do the things, solve the puzzles, get the stuff, open the doors. A lot more enemies this time around, a lot more warped, distorted stuff, similar to Nowhere, but a lot more believable in my opinion. But after you jump down the hole in the classroom from the top floor, you get a cutscene where Adler is in Falk's room, and he comes over to her and kisses her, and then all of a sudden transforms into something disgusting. It's changed. It's like everything was taken apart and put back together by someone who doesn't understand how it works. I have become whole again in flashes.
That line is so good. By someone who doesn't understand how it works. Oh my god.
I
know, it's like, please.
What happens to Adler in this game? Genuinely, some of my favorite design work, character design stuff is with Adler, especially when his flesh starts to rot off. That is so good. He looks so pathetic by the end too, which is perfect for his character. He's hanging on to something that cannot be hung on to.
Joel, going through my notes, you want to know what I wrote down from this Adler cutscene as well?
Yeah, what'd you write down?
Goes back to the King in Yellow. Adler says that he wears no mask, and I hate everything.
I wear no mask.
He also just looks so sad in that form. His eye just looks like he's dying, which I guess, yeah.
I mean, definitely, that's a good thing to note. He doesn't want this. I mean, nobody really wanted this cycle. Not even Elster, I don't think.
No.
But there are two choices: either cling on to it or finish it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The cutscene ends off. I think this is iconic because it's also in the trailer for the game. I believe it's Isa, but there's a girl with her eye out and a bandage over it, and she's shaking in the mirror and trying to bring her hand up, but her hand's trembling. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that is Isa. It flashed so quickly it was hard for me to perceive that well. But it's at this point now that we're back on Rotfront, and you spawn into a new place.
Yeah.
So we're here, guys.
I'm part of the game. Oh my god. How good was this? How good was this? I don't know. Were you guys expecting? Because I was completely. This was the rug pull that got me the most. Nowhere I was kind of expecting something fucked up to be in those mines, but I was not expecting a return to Rotfront or to Memory, to such a lived-in part of the world,
I was not expecting Rotfront at all. Yeah.
Me neither. I actually thought Rotfront was the Sierpinski on my first playthrough, because I thought the Sierpinski was just an isolated part on the planet Rotfront.
Nah.
So that was kind of a rug pull, and just to be dropped into some place more I don't know, urban.
Yeah,
was shocking to me.
Yeah, it was really weird.
and the fun thing about it too is that like it is kind of unique, like Rotfront, but you see flashes of the Serpensky throughout it. Like it's when these two realities are converging. Ariana's memories of Rotfront are overriding the physical space of the Serpensky facility. So you're getting the two together. Like I kept having deja vu on my first, and especially multiple playthroughs. After you run through that beginning, when you go through Rotfront, like I kept feeling like I've been here before. It's different, but I've been here before,
Yeah, definitely.
and it's great.
Yeah, man, I love every second of this segment, and like just like as you start to like walk around, the fact that there's actually like rooms for people and like dormitories that people live in and actual small businesses, like you're actually getting a look into the lives, and it's revealed as you like go into like the left save room as soon as you spawn in. It's like the medical bay ward, and you're like clicking through all the emails, and you find a message from Anji Itao and about her two daughters, and talking about like their like bookstore. So I thought that was nice.
It is nice. Some of it, a lot of it is horrifying.
Definitely.
This is true, yeah. This is very true. Like you're looking through all these like medical files. Like, granted, like a lot of this stuff is like more puzzle solving, but like it gives you slight insight into some of these characters. And
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
there's a lot that we could talk about. Like I believe that there's a whole spy subline story going on throughout.
There is actually.
Yeah, look, there's almost so much in Rotfront that like you could dedicate a whole podcast to it in and of itself. I'm being completely dead ass, like there is a lot here to talk about, but to me, some of it is almost superfluous to what matters, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like that whole spy sub storyline, it's really cool. I don't necessarily know what it adds other than reinforcing the themes of like totalitarianism and like also establishing something's up with bioresonance. Ariana is dangerous kind of thing. But there's a lot to it, like a lot of writing about it. So yeah.
Well, and I think when it comes to like spy subplots, I really like them a lot because like it's individuals who put themselves on the line for like a greater like cause and entity.
Oh, definitely.
And so like you care more for the individual, and so it's kind of like intriguing that the spy subplot happens. But it's a nameless figure at the end of the day. Like you crave for some kind of like human connection to these characters, and yet you don't get that payoff.
What cause he's spying for? Is it he's anti-empire or not anti-empire? He's anti.
So he's
right?
It's an imperial spy active on Rotfront. Yeah, post fall of the empire. And bioresonance is something that the Yusan Nation is exploring heavily. So this is truly where you find records discussing like Gestalts being frozen and replicated, and all records of these individuals being erased from like anyone who knew these people. Like it's just a memory now. Like these people like are off the grid, don't exist anymore in history. And the bioresonance is used to survey unit degradations and shut down individuality and like give control to the people of power.
Talking about like the original imprints for the replicants being kind of erased. The picture that of Alina Xiao that Issa finds, does it also have the Elster prototype on it?
I don't remember. Jack, do you have that in your notes?
I don't either. Is it because
Could you say that again?
You know how Issa finds like a picture of Alina Xiao, which makes her be like, "Oh my god, my ancestor was into adventures and stuff, and there's a life out there." Or is it her or is it Ariane who finds that picture?
Oh, right. I think I have it somewhere here in my notes. I
was just
remember
trying to
getting
remember if the Elster original blueprint is also in that picture, or if she's already been erased by the kind of state system.
I think no. Wait, what happens is it's Ariane. Ariane is the one who's at the radio outpost, right? and she gets sent into the city, and she meets the Itaos. But then she finds it's Aryan who finds the photo, brings it up because it's like clearly Isa, but then it's said that it's uncanny how she looks like the older sister, who I think is an
Yeah.
Elster at this point.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because she fought in the war. She was the Venetan soldier.
That
I,
is true.
yeah, I forget her name. I think that's Eri,
Yeah,
maybe.
I think it is Eri. What I do think is also important to discuss is what happens to Alina, because that's not a good ending for her.
Yeah.
Almost like
Right.
she was a manifestation of Ariane's subconscious.
Yeah.
Which some people have made the argument for. I'm partial to it, but I can also recognize how some people wouldn't like that. What do y'all think about that?
It's hard for me to
Yeah.
form thoughts just because this is like truly where the game gets kind of mind fucky with its people.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, bro. Oh.
I always get Alina and Isa mixed up for some reason. I don't know why.
yeah,
Or
it's because they sort of they loop over each other, and I shouldn't say. Let me make sure I'm speaking right. I think I mixed up Alina and Isa. Isa is the one we find. Isa Itoy. Is
Yeah.
dead.
in the bookstore, yeah, that's her.
Yeah.
Because that was the Itao bookstore.
Yeah. Alina
Yeah.
So is her is the replicant who we might not replicant, but the personality basis that we might associate with Elster, right? Is that where we're going with?
I
Here?
think so.
was that?
Maybe.
So
Yeah,
Alina
I'm
would
Google
be
search.
made up, but it'd be Isa who is like the extension of Ariane.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
sorry, I got the two names goofed around.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, Alina Seo is the one Elster is based off of because she was the one who fought in the war, and yeah, right. There's medical records on her, and like clearly,
That
like
was
she gets
one
into like a
theory.
lot of fights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that there are other people that could be the Elster base unit. If I've got the wiki up right now, you guys can keep talking, but I think there's some community work that's been done that has got another person as the Elster.
Yeah. I don't know. I like to think it's Alina
Yeah.
in a way, just because like we have a photo of this person and like it matches up with what's in the med bay. While you look into that, I do want to talk about some of the level design here.
Mm.
Um, you know, you go in and there's like medical records and like teachers' evaluations of Aryan. You know, Aryan was raised in isolation on a radio station, and she's a friend of the Itao sisters. She's obsessed with things seen as illegal, mostly because her mom, because they were in a more outlandish part, had more access to what was perceived as like contraband things.
Yeah.
And so, if she doesn't straighten up, she will be going into the military. And then you go into the disinfectant room, and you're jumping down the meat grinder. I just want to say, it's very unsettling. There's like corrosive matter around the area. Like things are fine. You're unlocking doors left and right, and there's like monsters down in the basement and like in some of the hallways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as you jump down the grinder, a word flashes Zan, Zahn. I don't know what it means, but Aryan, gasping and bleeding. Uh, what did I write here in my notes? I said Vineland or Vinland are being told Imperial forces are starving them. And then you come across notes talking about the Red Eye and how, like Joel mentioned in the previous episode, Monfest was like the people coming together and kind of creating this like cryptid is not necessarily the right word, but like
Thought
um
form is a good way to put it, or an egregore.
yeah, that's a better way of putting it. By the way, they instilled life and meaning into this perceived concept, this ideology.
Yeah. By the way, I'm reading up on this on the wiki. So the idea, Alina So is a friend of Elster. Well, actually, talking about replication, she's in the photo with the surviving personality basis of
Yeah.
Elster. The two names that it
Oh,
could be is Anna Huang or Lilith Itao. I think I'd be more partial to it being Lilith, just because you got Issa,
Yeah.
who gets wounded in the same way as Elena Seo. So you got that two links there, and they're both searching more of looping and replication kind of stuff here, where ideas are folding in and out themselves and themes are repeating in real life with people who might not necessarily fully be real.
Right. Oh, and it's Alina. Okay, wait. The connection is Alina and Ariane because those are the same people who look like the same person. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, it is. That's the connection right there.
Okay, and that explains the connection between Ariane and Elster. Like how
Yeah.
Elster's memory probably perceives Ariane as Alina to a degree.
Yeah, kind of.
This game is trippy at times, man.
No, it takes a minute. Sometimes you have to just say stuff out loud that's wrong, and then you got to be like, okay, wait, that doesn't make sense. Let's walk it back.
Yeah,
Walk it back.
I almost need like red string and like tack pins to like
Oh.
put up on a board and like get photos strung across my wall.
Dude,
Yeah.
if we ever go back to Signalis, I will have a conspiracy board. We will have one. Be a
We need a
first world
spy
audience
conspiracy
live
board,
action.
bro.
Oh man. I do want to, going on to the level stuff, I could read my notes all day, but I do want to ask, what were your guys' thoughts on the level design here? Like, did you have fun with it? Like, what were the most, like, memorable rooms to you?
I had
Well, go ahead.
I don't know, I had a lot of fun, but this is the area of the game where I sort of stopped paying attention to levels, if that makes sense. I saw them as a means to an end. I was gunning for that final fight. I had a promise to fulfill. I was ready. And I love that boss fight with Falk, which we can talk about when we get to it.
So fun.
But Rockfront is cool, and especially on repeat playthroughs, you start to really, really appreciate it because you start to slow down. I feel like, well, slow down and speed up. You speed up through the beginning, but then you slow down at Rockfront because you might have missed stuff. There's also, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there's a new Adler secret room that they added with an update.
Oh yeah, I heard about it.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
it's got more. Yeah, it's got more dialogue and stuff. I actually, I didn't get to it yet. I'm a little stupid. I couldn't find it. I must have
gotten to it.
Where
was it? What room was it?
I think it's in Rotfront, somewhere. I'm not positive though. Possibly because I haven't found it yet because I'm dumb. But yeah.
There was one room here. Oh, sorry.
Oh, please go ahead.
I was just gonna say there was one room that I absolutely hated. It was like you go up the ladder in the fire escape to the very top, and then there's just that one room with the barracks with the creatures that you have to use the radio to kill.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and it's like dark inside.
There was like completely dark, and there was also people running at you like immediately, which is just I was not a big fan. And it's also such a small room, you can't really run away, and you can't shoot them either because you have to kill the radio people first.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I
was just struggling hard, man. I hated it.
That room gives me a hard time. I usually shoot down every enemy, but like on this most recent playthrough, I just said fuck it. Like I booked to the door and got out.
Yeah.
And also that butterfly room, I like once you realize the puzzle, you see it, but like I was a total dum dum. I'm like, oh, what am I looking for? There's a safe here on the left.
I was the exact same. I did not get it. I had to look it up. It was I did not see it.
And then like the answer's in front of your face the whole time.
It is, but like I don't know. I wasn't paying attention, I guess. I did the whatever it was, the satellite one without looking it up though.
Oh, that one gave me such a hard time, and I don't know if they updated it. I know
they might
like my first playthrough, I had such a struggle. Like I had to look it up. I could not get that for the life of me. And then actually, I was about to ask this a second ago, but what do you guys think in our modern age of like being able to update games? Do you think like they're all good at times, like being able to update a game and like maybe like not just fix bugs, but kind of change the work of art to a degree?
Yeah, no, I think
I definitely like it. especially with this game, like a very big one is being able to like not have the flashlight take up a slot in your inventory. That was a like awesome change that they made. Really
Yeah.
good.
Absolutely. It's a thought I have with a lot of games, especially when I compare like old to new games. Like, old games you couldn't update, you had to release a whole different edition of the game. Um, so it's almost like people get different experiences surrounding the same like work of like games and like fiction art.
I actually recently read. First off, let me say I really appreciate whenever people go back to touch stuff up. If I can bring this to literature, because I think if we're looking at games as art, and especially as kind of a literary art, then
Hmm.
there's like a very long tradition of authors going back and tweaking things and updating things. There was Ezra Pound, who's famous for all the wrong reasons, but he did write in the I think it's called In the Metro or Faces at the Metro, which is only a 2-line poem, one sentence, 2 lines long, and he re-released it 3 times. And the only thing he changed was a comma to a period and then the period to a semicolon. But that merited in his head 3 different like rewritings of the same poem,
Wow.
years apart. And I think that painters will go back and they'll repaint something. Isle of the Dead, for example, is repainted what 8 times.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. I like it. I like whenever the artist goes back and makes it more what they intended. They figure out something they could do which expands it in a direction they like. I don't have the distaste for it, which I think some people do, which I understand completely.
Mm,
Yeah. I don't have so much as a distaste towards it. I think it's fun to see the author and like artists like expand upon and like try and like actually make it closer to how their vision was, and also just like
Definitely.
maybe like making things easier for the consumer. I just think it's you know, at what some changes are fine, but then other changes is it's like, you know, does it kind of change the meaning in a way? I don't think that's the case here with Signalis, not at all, but it's a question I think about frequently with many
oh,
things.
it can definitely change the meaning if we're bringing it to like art, not just literature, but like physical painting. Like you can point to Turner, who is this British artist, and there was this whole movement in England where they'd bring in these paintings to their museums, right? And then they'd do live paintings. They already had a finished painting that was already a complete work of art, but they would do touch ups in front of everyone, and it would sometimes change the painting entirely. There's one painting that he did with it's called Regulus. It was about a Roman general who failed in, I think it's the Second Punic War. Not failed, he got captured by Carthaginians, and then the legend goes that he was forced to stare at the sun till he went blind. He had this painting of Regulus being forced to look at the sun, and then as people gathered around, he would splash more and more white paint on the canvas until eventually most, like a good chunk, halfway of it is just complete white blinding light, essentially. A giant sun. It changed the painting completely. So this has been going on for a long, long time. I think this was in the 1800s.
Wow.
1850? No, 1830. 1830 is when this was. Yeah.
It's all fascinating.
I
Like,
think it's cool, and I do see your point. I do think, actually, you can point to Rainbow Six or League of Legends, for instance. Those games aren't necessarily art. I'm not saying they are, but the player experience. Like Daniel, you played a League season. When did you start?
Oh Jesus, 2014. I don't know what season that was. 7, 8.
Yeah, 2014. Would you say that the playing League of Legends in 2014 was vastly different than in like 2022 or something like that?
Yes, completely.
Yeah, exactly. But those updates completely changed the experience. Completely changed, if we want to call it art, which it's League of Legends. Let's not.
League of
But
Legends is not art. I'm sorry, that is not.
but
It's
it
a
completely
torture
changed.
device. Yeah.
It's a torture device. Hey, there's art and torture,
It's
right?
a torture device.
Ooh, for sure.
But it completely changed the experience. Uh, and you can look at that. Like there are indie games in early access, for instance, where their early access stuff is like really artistic, and that's why you like stuck with it. It completely changes by the time it releases, right?
Yeah.
And which one is
Hello
the
neighbor. Hello neighbor.
yeah?
best example.
Hello Neighbor is a good example, so it's definitely important to talk about and bring up. And we're not the first to have these debates, but I think with our medium of games to an extent, or at least not our, but the medium of games, it almost is a little bit, I don't know, a little bit harder, especially since you've got big companies saying you don't own your games anymore, like Ubisoft or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not like you can have these pictures preserved, like with the Ezra Pound stuff, for instance. He re-released that, right? But you can always go back to those old re-releases, right? If you liked the one with the comma being in a certain place more than the period or whatever.
Yeah.
With games going as they are now, Ubisoft might say, hey, you can't actually revert the update. Or if you revert the update, you won't have vital features of like online play or something like that, or connectivity. Games is such a new genre, but there's already so much. This is getting off topic of Signalis, but like there's so much information loss already. I think there are. I don't know the statistic, but I think like there's around 50% of games are already just like completely lost media and like gone.
Yeah.
It's something like astronomically big that you wouldn't expect, like the number, because we live in the modern era. But games preservation is hard to do just in general because of, well, one, companies, two, piracy laws, and three, not many people want to do it. So,
No, absolutely. Well, not all games will be looked back on, because like, what is it? As somebody who collects like retro games, like physical media for this reason, I'm not a tech head. I don't like to do the piracy stuff, and also like I have careers I want to do in the future that I best just not delve into that way. But there are like I like collecting retro games in physical media. And I can say that like, walking into the retro game store and like locking eyes on the shelf, like with Barney and friends hide and seek for the Sega Master System, like like not all things will be looked at, unfortunately. And I think, there's things like that in like the movie scene, but definitely games are such a new genre that things are going to get updated. Licenses happen in this day and age. To play a copy of Metroid Prime on the GameCube is completely different than playing the remastered edition on the Nintendo Switch. I've got both versions. I've played both versions. They play very similar, and it's the same team working on it, but like the sequence breaking in the game where like you could like lag the game and like cut straight to the end sequence, like that got chopped out. And even that was in like a GameCube best hits version of Metroid Prime, the original.
yeah.
So it's just interesting. But
It
anyway, I
is.
digress. I didn't mean to completely derail it.
No, it's an important conversation to have, I think, especially if we're going to talk about updates in general. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, because sometimes we talk and it's like maybe what I experienced 2 years ago, or was it a year ago? I can't remember. Whatever I experienced like on my first playthrough was going to be different than, what Felix experienced.
And it also does tie into Signalis a little bit if we put on our tinfoil hats. The repetitions, okay?
Good segue. Good segue.
Great segue. Great segue.
You, Jack, in your playthrough of Signalis, right? You have a completely unique set of memories, but it's the same overlying themes. And with the update, that could be seen as a meta-narrative continue of the thing, because there's slight differences. It's another loop. It's another bioresonance where Felix will have a not completely different, but a different playthrough from you, but with the same thematic things. There's still Elster, there's still Arion, stuff like that, right? But there's minor differences, like Felix not having to deal with the stupid inventory restrictions that were in the right? It's still it's relevant. I swear, we didn't waste 10 minutes. It's all in line with the game's themes and meta narrative. This is smart criticism, right, guys?
Holy shit! I imagine Rose Engine's just like listening to this and like sitting there, like, "Oh, we planned it all along, 10 steps ahead." Like, this is what we were going for.
That is totally what they're going for. I'm not coping.
No.
Isn't that right, Daniel?
Oh no, I think you got it nailed. Yeah, they were thinking very much so of Ezra Pound and EA re-releasing Madden every year.
Yeah. Thank you very little. It's FIFA that EA is also in charge of that I care about because my dad loves FIFA. All right.
I think there's been some Madden games where it's literally just like, what is it? It could be like Madden 20 and somebody's playing Madden like 21. And it's like, huh, there's an advertisement for Madden 20 on the side of the bleachers.
Mm.
Pretty
It's
sure it
literally
does
it's the
happen.
same. Yeah, yeah.
Guys,
My
I can't.
brother,
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say my brother was playing NCAA 25 last night because I got him the new game. It
Mm.
seems like it's built up from like a lot of the ground up and whatnot. But I was like joking with him about it. He's like, "Well, it's hard making a Madden game every year," and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'm not discounting that assets are gonna be reused. Like Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask is reused assets from Ocarina of Time.
Elden Ring.
However, why are we charging like $60 to $70 for this game? And also, like, if you're gonna reskin, at least make sure it's authentic."
Yeah. I mean, Elden Ring. We should probably talk about Signalis soon, but that same idea, asset reuse and all that. But completely unique
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
thing.
I mean, you at least like you cut where you have to, but you strive to build different experience. Otherwise, in terms of a Madden game, it's the same game.
It's the same game. I can't wait till they add Elster into Madden and she can remember her promise as she gets to the end zone and spikes the ball right on Ariane's face. Turn off her life support.
Hey, we haven't gotten that far, Joel.
Oh my bad, my bad.
Spoilers.
I really
Spoiler.
like that part in Signalis, where
Favorite scene.
she hit the gritty after turning off.
She default danced over her corpse.
Dude, no, wait, you have to pay V-Bucks for that.
Ah.
I didn't pay the V-Bucks. I'm sorry.
I didn't either. Yeah, my character just died.
Well, having gone on this long side quest, I do want to circle back to the fact that in this level we have to search for different tarot cards.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
it becomes very apparent with room 0512, where you go in and there's ominous music playing, shifting flesh walls, and the dream diary. Uh, and it just goes through the whole sequence where it describes like, dream sequence. I was a soldier on Veneta. I was falling from like a place on like rock front, wherever, Evidently it's part of the puzzle and the tarot cards, but um where you find a lot of the tarot cards, I think have quite a bit of like, relevancy in the game. After all, you go into the Etal residence and you go into the back door, and you find banned books like Songs of the God and talking
Yeah.
about how people who can conduct the songs of the cosmos relating to bioresonance, it's lore expansion. But then you go into the next room and you find Isa, and she's like, I couldn't find her. I couldn't find my sister. And so she kills herself, dies, dissolves. And
Yeah.
there's just the death tarot card left where she's at.
Yeah. Issa has a rough fate, man. Like I feel so bad for her because
Definitely.
her sister didn't really even exist in the loop. You know?
Mm.
Yeah, she was chasing a ghost of some sorts.
Yeah.
Do you think
And,
this was the real Isa, or do you think this was some kind of like
No.
memory?
No.
yeah, it's definitely a memory.
I don't think it can be the real. I just don't think Rod Front, or at least the Rod Front we're seeing, is a real Rod Front. I think this is firmly beyond the Red Gate threshold, that we are completely in some kind of Arion bioresonant memory. So I don't think that this Issa is the real Issa, which then makes me question,
But
what
what
the
happened to the
Issa.
real Isa?
Yeah, yeah.
If this is a memory of sorts.
I'm trying to remember the YouTube channel. There was this long essay that they did on Signalis. They also did good dead videos on Pathologic. I'll find them. But they thought that Issa did like kind of a blood ritual or something to summon the Red Eye. There apparently is some evidence for it. I'm not a big. I think it's really interesting, and I think it's cool. I'm not huge fan of that interpretation. I don't think it's bad though. They have a really good essay on Signalis. Let me pull it up on YouTube. I'll find it. They are codex entry, I believe.
Mm.
Yeah, super good SAS. There were two. I think they're both trans girls. I'm not positive though, but I think they are. Uh, at least, definitely one of them was, which is relevant because they can talk about some certain themes of transness in the game. That was really, really cool that I'd never seen before because, like, I'm not trans.
Mm.
Big surprise, I guess. um, but like, I wouldn't be able to pick that up without them, talking about it and how it related to the
Definitely.
feelings that they experienced.
Yeah.
So
That's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
She has good videos on Pathologic too, as well. If you guys want to dive into that rabbit hole, it's a big one and long.
Maybe in a little bit. For now, I think we need to get through the rock front section
we
before we
definitely
get
need to
into
get.
the yeah. So there's not much left of rock front. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, it's mostly puzzles and some like
Mm.
universe expansion and character expansion. Uh, there's the dreaded antenna puzzle that we all managed to make it through. There's the magpie sound. Unlock the box. Get another tarot card. At this point, you're placing all the tarot cards into the moon puzzle, uh,
Mm.
and all the card slots on the desk. And then at this point, the walls have been shifting throughout the level at this point. More tumors and like fleshy walls have been like blocking like certain entrances and hallways. Like clearly the corruption spreading. And all of a sudden, or not all of a sudden, but you go down, you get a ring, and you start like reading out the moon phases to like switch the dial in like the main like lobby section. And this is where like you see the tesseract symbol on the wall, right? And then once
Mm.
you complete the puzzle, a hole in the wall opens up, you crawl through, and then you're back in the radio room from the beginning
Yeah.
of the game.
Mm.
Yep. And so it's at this point, like if you've done the artifact ending, this is where you do the artifact ending.
Yeah.
Very good
Yeah,
ending, but I think we should talk about it last. Actually,
I
Yeah, I
fully
agree.
agree. By the way, to the listener, if you don't know, the artifact ending is like not like a secret ending, I would say, like maybe
it
the true
kind of
ending as
is. You have
well.
to come through a lot of
Yeah.
things to do it.
Yeah, but if you've done a like certain like sequence of events that like in my opinion are really quite obscure, but you get like three
Mm.
keys and you punch in a number code from like what's been read out over the radio after you hear like Achtung and there's like that huge
Yeah.
string of
From the
numbers.
start of the loop. Yeah.
Yeah, then you punch that in and then this is where I think you open up the safe and you get like a plant.
Yeah, a vase with roses that you eventually place on a grave, I believe, in
Mm.
the cutscene.
Right.
Yeah.
By the way, this is where you get that important item. And so, you're in the radio room. Once again, you pick up the King of Yellow and you leave out the adjacent room. But finally, you can actually enter this room that this door leads to from this small radio closet room. And so you find files that Arian applied to the Penrose program to flee Supansky, which is on Lang. And her mother's letter says Arian and Alina Seo look identical. This is where the connection comes in. Uh, and this is the end. You leave forever. You go down the hallway and find Adler notes on the ground as you walk down this like ridiculously long hallway.
Yeah.
And he believes that the mashes of flesh are slow corruptions of reality itself. He's relived the same cycle over and over. It's stuff we've talked
Mm.
about, but the game is finally like laying the groundwork for it.
It's good to
Uh,
finally confirm it.
yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And so it's at this point you come to the end of the hallway, and it's there that you fight Falk.
Yeah,
Mm.
What did you guys think of this boss fight, by the way?
I thought
awesome.
it was really good, and it was hard, but not like ridiculously difficult.
Yeah.
Like it took me
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 like attempts, which I feel like is good.
It's one of the cooler parts of the game for me. And like,
Mm.
I'm not a big. I like Signalis' combat as much as the next guy, definitely. But like this part is where it really shined for me, especially after. Say what you will about Rotfront. I like Rotfront a lot. But I do think the enemy spam gets a little ridiculous late game in Signalis, just in general, right? Which, granted, survival horror, you're supposed to be running past most of them. I get it. But being able to feel like all right, this is it. I can use whatever I want. I can use all of the revolver ammo that I've hoarded up till now.
Yeah.
It's always fun. It's always fun at the end of a survival horror game to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I like this fight a lot, and I really like the how you kind of like jump between different locations and like
Oh, yeah.
reality's warped on itself, and you like pick up the spears that are being dropped down. You like just stab them into her face. Like, oh, it's so good. I
Yeah.
The
there's a
final
sequence.
arena. Oh, keep going.
Oh, I was gonna say that there's a sequence of in my notes that I found about this. It says a red dream describes the frequent locations in the game. I saw her waiting for me in the emptiness. We had made a promise. As the memories of a stranger rushed into my mind, I felt the borders of myself blur. Now I no longer tell where Falk ends and Elster begins. Is this bioresonance? I was wondering if is this like bioresonance on Falk? Is she based on an Arion as well? Um, maybe different thoughts at the time, kind of having different perceptions now. But these memories are mine now. Is what she says. So I was wondering, because Falk went in and it's like something's been put back together, like in the wrong way, as Adler had described. I'm wondering if has like Ariane like left a part of herself in Falk, and like has the bioresonance like backfired on Falk?
Yeah, it's definitely leaning that way, right? There has something of Arion in there because Falk units are already bioresonant, are they not? I'm pretty sure that's confirmed.
They
right?
are, yeah. They're like the head bioresonant.
Yeah, they're the heads, right? So they reach out to everyone underneath them. It's sort of like if you were sort of programmed to be top dog and like you could connect to your own body, but there's something above you that is sort of influencing you, and you suddenly become aware of that, and it's overriding you. It's a full extinction of what's happening to reality, right? Ariane is above this reality. Like if you believe that she is this bioresonant god, which I'm pretty sure you kind of have to by the end of the game. She's overriding everything, including Falk. Falk no longer really exists, though she gets to keep a little bit of herself because she has bioresonant power.
Yeah. And another thing too that I find interesting, that I forgot until now, when the boss fight starts, she says, "Both of us are incomplete. Let us become whole again."
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
I think she thinks that by fully subsuming Elster, she'll either, she'll gain what Ariane wants from her, I guess. Because, I don't know. They kind of look similar. Falk's taller, obviously.
Yeah, only a little bit.
Maybe a little bit.
Only like almost 3 feet.
Yeah, but you could see her like trying to become fully what Ariane is like enforcing on that. A replicant has to be Elster because Elster is who she loves. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah. And so the fight happens, and we move on. Finally, we're at the end of the game. And so, once you kill Falk, another violent scene missing still is put into your view. And it's at this point we transition, and Adler bows before Falk at the gate. Now we are one. Once again, you've returned. This world cannot take much more. This may be our last chance. And then it goes, and then I think this is where Adler like turns to Elster, and he goes, "You selfish monster." And so, we have the sequence where they're at the threshold. Adler's face is like all like corrupted. The King in Yellow thing has happened now, where he's like, "I wear no mask." And as he stabs you in the face, you fucking cap his ass.
Yeah.
Poor Adler. Poor
Adler. Oh,
Poor
man,
Adler.
poor
0 for
Adler.
2 on knife attacks with that guy.
Yeah.
Bro, not
Bro
doing too good.
Bro is not making it into Dead by Daylight with this one.
Dude, oh my god. I would love Adler to go into Dead by Daylight as like the worst killer possible. Like you M1 and he stabs like the air, constant shaky cam or something.
His Mori is that he's just standing there like with his Chad Chin glaring at you, saying you're gonna ruin it all, and he just shoves you down an elevator shaft.
His Mori, the Serpinski has fallen millions of times.
Oh man. But yeah, no, it's at this point he's bleeding out on the ground, he's crawling after you. You're crossing the threshold, and he's like, you'll destroy everything. But you don't
Mhm.
care. You don't care. And
You
so
have to fulfill your promise. You got no choice.
You
you've
have
Yeah.
to.
gotta. And so you once again go to the Sierpinski, but this time you actually manage to open the hatch. Well, no, actually, I recant my statement. This is where it depends on what ending you get.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about? Well, let's go step by step with what you most likely get. So I think promise is usually the one that people get
Yeah.
more often
No,
than
isn't
not.
there another one which isn't promise? Isn't there
There's one
like
where
So
you
one where
here,
one where
let's back up. Let's back up. Let's talk about what endings we all got.
Mm.
okay.
Okay.
I
Because
got
I
So
think that's
promise on my
important.
first playthrough with no knowledge of how to get different endings or that there were different endings. I got promise, and I think you did too, right, Felix?
I did.
Yeah.
I've played through 3 times. I've gotten promise, then leave, then artifact.
Mm.
Wow, so you guys all got like promise on your first playthrough?
Yeah.
So, okay. I guess I'm gonna be the oddball out here. I got memory on my first playthrough.
And that's the
I think
one where
memory is also
it's
pretty common, right?
basically the same thing as promise, except Elster doesn't fulfill the promise. She dies right next to Ariane, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I got promise on my second playthrough. But now that we've, talked a bit about these endings that we've got, and we'll talk about how they made us feel like in a second. But let's talk about the conditions for how to get these different endings.
I love
Mm.
the idea of the conditions of how to get these endings. Uh,
Mm.
it's reliant on a lot of things like game time, how many enemies you killed, how many you ran away with, how much healing you used. It's exactly like Silent Hill 2, which has one of the best game design ideas for endings in general. Where Silent Hill 2, if you interact with certain items, healing, same idea, running, game time, how much you fought, how much you didn't, would get you different endings, like in water or leave or the Maria ending, stuff like that.
Mm.
It's the same system. I wish more games would do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way better than like a binary choice system of do you want to destroy the galaxy or save the galaxy? You know?
Someone doesn't like Mass Effect 3, it sounds like. Oh.
Dude, I tried so hard to like the Mass Effect franchise. I can't get into it.
But no, this is a better choice, Joel. Do you nuke Japan or nuke the United States?
That is a great choice. I love the Killer 7 choice because it doesn't matter. It's like a spit in the player's face. Either one doesn't matter.
Similar result.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you guys think then, just like from a game design perspective, is it fair for players to, not even know that there are different endings and then maybe they get the quote unquote worst ending on their first playthrough and they think that's it and it leaves them
I
with a
think
very
it's fair.
negative kind of taste for the game?
Oh, I think
I
it's
think
more
it's
than
fair, especially for this game. I feel like they did a great job. Like none of them are like bad endings.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and the other thing too, I think it's completely fair, especially since at the end the game gives you like your results screen, and it will tell you which ending you got.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm a big fan of treating the player like they don't matter. If that makes sense. Like it's my
Yeah.
it's my way or the highway. It's my artistic vision. You can like it or you can't like it. I'm sick and tired of games as like a commodified product that don't do anything to push a player's expectation at all. To just be
Mm.
safe, banal, be like, oh, it's okay, little baby gamer. You can have whatever you want. It's okay. You can be happy. I don't want that. I don't. I'd rather be potentially burned by something ambitious, trying something new, than like sit with something safe where I know what's going to happen the entire time.
Yeah,
Definitely.
when it comes to these endings, I'm gonna start shifting more towards like how like the endings made me feel and like what my thoughts were of the ones I got. When I first played through, I got memory,
Mm.
and you go in, you're reading all the files of like Arian's like health going down, things spiraling into like disarray,
Mm.
and I walked in and I was like ready for like this huge moment, like to fulfill my promise, and then just for like Arian to be like, not remember me. That was a gut punch. That was a true
Oh my
gut
God.
punch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the name memory for the actual like events that play out in the memory ending, like almost feel like, I don't know if is ironic the right word for this. Almost ironic.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a little ironic.
Yeah. The irony of it, like you remembered your whole mission, but she didn't, and yet Elster, can't go through with it because it's like she doesn't remember. Like I don't know if I can do this. I love her too much, and so you just end up curling next to her and like dying next to her.
Yeah.
That was upsetting to me. And then I, on my second playthrough, went back and got the promise ending. Definitely felt a lot more fulfilled. Still not a happy ending, but
Still
No.
I think
upsetting.
it's the way
I don't know. I think
I
it's
don't
a
know.
happy-ish ending.
It's a happy-ish ending. It's the way I
Yeah.
wanted Memory to be when I first played through.
Definitely.
I think
Yeah.
memory could, I don't know, writing standpoint, I think all of them are really, really strong. I haven't gotten memory. I had to look that one up on YouTube. Weirdly, like I got the other three fine. I don't know.
I think Memory's kind of a tough condition just because like you have to like die very little, keep your health up, and also like well, it's either keep your health up or keep your health low, and then like go around and like absolutely like murder everything.
Yeah, that's two things that I could do the murder everything thing a little bit, but two things that I
Yeah.
don't like to do. I hoard healing items a lot of times in these games, but I also have this condition where like if my health goes low, no, absolutely not. It's
Okay, yeah, then it was health low because I have a tendency, especially if I don't know like how long the game is, I'll like let my health run low. That
Yeah.
way I will pop that healing item when I absolutely need to and
I
not
just-
waste like any health state.
I just won't get hit, and then if I get hit, that's
Won't
what save
get hit.
that's what saves are for.
Wow. Okay, flex up, buddy. Okay.
That's what saves are for. Just revert the save. I'm okay wasting another 30 minutes of my time. That's fine. Let's go.
I died a great many times to one room. I think it was in somewhere in nowhere. It was one of the like dark rooms with a shit ton of enemies because I just didn't have any ammo. And I think that's what pushed me
Yeah.
over the edge of the promise, just because I think I died. I maybe spent like an hour on that one room. It was awful.
Yeah, there's so many points where I'm just like, give me some ammo, please. Just begging the game to give me some.
You know, and I'm paying for my consequences because early in the game, I was shooting the hell out of enemies, being like, "Yes, yes," and then later on, no, I was the one getting beaten the shit out of, and I deserved it. I deserved it.
Yeah. Going back to endings though, we should probably talk about Leave as well before we get to Promise, since everyone had the majority of Promise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Leave, it's kind of similar, except as you get to the threshold of the Penrose, Elster will stop and just say she can't go in there, essentially. She can't do
Yeah.
it. And then she will walk away and then die on the beach to a sunrise. It's ambiguous if she died. I'm pretty positive she did, but like she curls up, closes her eyes, and then the sun begins to warm her, and then we cut to black credits. I actually like that ending a lot, but we should probably talk about Promise before we talk about what we liked and didn't like about the endings, right?
Right. Well, and there's also Artifact, but we should probably save that for like.
But that stays to the very end because I consider that to be the true ending, and I don't think any of these three endings are actually endings. But that's
we got a lot
we'll
to
talk about that. I know exactly the train. I know exactly the train of thought you're about to go on. So let's talk about this first, and then we'll segue into that.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right. Talk about Promise. Let's talk about Promise.
All right. So Promise ending. You jump down. Starts to play out like Memory, except this time around, Arian actually remembers you. So like you have that interaction. It's pretty sweet, bittersweet that is. But you do go through with it. How does it play out again? I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up here.
You strangle Arian in the bathtub.
Yeah,
that's right.
Strangle her, and then you sink down beside it and die.
Yeah,
your eye fades out to the fake out ending.
Yeah,
where it's
exactly.
dull and lifeless, and roll credits.
It's
roll credits.
Depressing as hell, but also very sweet because you fulfilled your promise.
I think it's the nicest ending. I really like it.
I think Artifact's nicer, but they can talk about that.
But we have,
Art,
we have
Art,
different views on what artifact means. But yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
What did you guys
Artifact's
think of
gonna
this
give that
one?
impression. I'm going to. I think Promise is definitely the sweetest ending, maybe, or not, maybe
Mm.
not the sweetest, but like in terms of just comparing the three regular endings, I think it goes for me in terms of like most payoff that I like, for my
Yeah.
happiness. Promise, probably. I don't know. I'm divisive on whether or not leave or because leave is like, that's it. It's unfulfilled, but you don't have to go through the pain of memory where it's like, you know,
You just
she doesn't
can't do
remember
it.
you at all.
Memory
Yeah.
to me is one of my favorite endings in the game. Like obviously I don't think it's the best one, but I think emotionally that one might be like the strongest out of all of them. It is just such an awful kick the dog moment where like, you know, you've been through so much and nothing gets accomplished at the end. You have to die knowing like and a little bit of comfort because at least you're dying next to the person you love, but the person you love doesn't remember you and it's going to be in suffering for the rest of the moment because you can't kill them because they don't remember you kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's so compelling. It's also
Yeah,
awful.
that's how I
Yeah.
felt about that moment too. Like at least like the emotional charge that came with like being there with your like lover, even though she didn't know.
Yeah.
I do agree. Oh, it's
Mm.
just the setting is so good.
It
Like
is.
especially on the Penrose, like seeing it dilapidated and like just seeing like
Mm.
a
I
pool of
just
blood and red like around
And
Aryan.
full of radiation as well.
Yeah. It's just like the way she's like a ghostly white. Like it's just such a good contrast.
Yeah.
my problem with these endings, and I don't want to jump ahead. If anybody wants to talk about these endings real quick, go ahead because
I don't have much more to say. Do you
Nope.
guys?
Daniel,
I'm good.
Felix,
Well, I think I can only say what I want to about Promise in the wider context of the artifact ending. All I'll say maybe is that I think this is the moment where we really kind of have to talk about what is real and what isn't in Signalis because, I
yeah,
don't think it's possible for us to actually be at the Penrose, right? Our
I
Mm.
don't think
Ulster
so
is
either.
yeah. We are either in Arion's head or some kind of memory, a world that is made through Arion's bioresonance. And
I
I
would
think
Yeah.
be
this is the
higher in
point
the
where we have
second.
to ask, what is real in the whole context of the game? Is Serpinski real? Is Rodfront real? Is Nowhere some kind of real? And I would love to hear what you guys have to think about that.
I'm of the opinion that it's. I hate to say all real because, like, obviously it's a dream space, right? But like,
Yeah.
if it's all real to the inhabitants within it, and all those people are not figments. Some of them are, but most of them, I would argue, are suffering and are real, at least in the experience of themselves having sentience, believing themselves to be real. Now, they may have been created by like Ariane, right? But
Yeah,
they themselves have a conscious identity and life kind of thing.
Mm.
yeah,
That is pain and suffering, but like they are conscious at the very least.
Mm.
Uh, talking about these endings, I can't view them as endings. I hate to say it. Uh, unless for my argumentation here, you could maybe view Leave as an ending, but I don't like that as an ending at all. Like viewing that
No.
as the end of the game, that doesn't feel right. Though, if you were to see it one way, I could see you arguing that being the best ending because where Elster dies in both Memory and Promise, she dies right next to Arion's casket, right? With
Yeah.
the
yeah,
same armor that you rip off after the fake out ending.
yeah.
Mm.
Loop is still going at that point.
Yeah.
The loop is not completed. There is no completion, there's no ending. Leave could be a completion of the loop, right? Elster's dying outside of the Penrose.
But there are Elsters in the sand, aren't there? Like in the earlier
I
cutscene as you're
think
There
walking to the
are.
Penrose
There
so.
location.
are.
So
There's
yeah.
skulls, yeah, at least.
You
So
do walk
there's
past a couple corpses of yourself.
so
Yeah.
then there's no completion to the loop there either. Thank you guys for catching that. By the way, I was looking for a counter argument there. I was like, I don't want this to be the end.
The canon
No, you're
reference
exactly right. I've most recently found this discussion itself, and it makes sense in my mind too, where all three of these endings are not actual endings; they're just like endings for a loop, and then the
Yeah,
game resets itself and the loop starts over. And
and the
only
loop.
truly
Mm.
with Artifact is it completed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you could argue that Artifact isn't. amazing, and I would say yes, there's the big ominous red eye of Rotfront, but if you view that red eye as Ariane, it's her and her love dancing for eternity in the Penrose. Is it the best? No, but is it the closest that you can get to like a heaven, especially in a hell world like Signalis with the bioresonance? I'd say yeah. It also has, in the artifact ending, it has Elster placing flowers at a grave, which is usually, I don't know, it's pretty symbolic of somebody coming to terms with someone's death, right? Of letting go. You know,
one thing I do have to ask about that sequence though, why are there 5 other Elsters? Like, is it like supposed to be representative of her like coming to like, the artifacting happens just for the listener at home, and you pick up the flowers and you go to a pedestal that's supposed to be a grave, place it, you like collapse on the ground and die, it seems, and then there's like revealed 5 other versions of you with the same pedestal but with no planet. Like, is it just like the loops?
It could be the 5 stages of grief.
Ooh.
I interpret that way. Oh my god, that could be smart. That could be actually really smart. Actually,
now we're getting somewhere.
Is there 5 or 7?
Yeah, no, there's 5 stages of grief.
Okay.
I think
the
there's
fifth stage is acceptance, though, and we're the 6th Elster, so we're kind of. Wouldn't we be the 5th Elster if we're like the 5th stage of grief?
Yeah, I don't know. It could be that we're past the mourning cycle. Like,
also, I don't know. I feel like Elster doesn't need to mourn what's happening because Elster isn't real, Or at least this Elster isn't real. I am of the opinion that we are in a dream space completely, and that the Elster that we are playing as through to the end of the mine, not into nowhere. I think nowhere in Rotfront is a dream of Ariane's, but I think through the mine is just an Elster unit that has been very heavily affected by Ariane's bioresonance signal, way across the galaxy, etc. And I don't think that we need to mourn Ariane because our Elster is either a version of Ariane's consciousness or it is someone who has no actual commitment to Ariane at all. That's how I looked at it, but I don't know. I'm of the opposite opinion of y'all, where I don't think the artifact is. I don't think it's a real ending. I think it's kind of the opposite, where it's like the most escapey. I'm just gonna pretend nothing's going on out of all of them.
Yeah, my problem with it being like escapism, it is kind of escapey, right? But if you read it as like a continuation of loops, what else can you do in that scenario? You tried everything. You tried to leave. You tried to, you tried to forget.
Try again. She made a promise. This is the game to me. This is the indomitable replicant spirit, I think the most beautiful ending in this game is the fact that it repeats ad infinitum, because Elster just will not give up her trying to, put Ariane out of her misery no matter what. For me, like the most happy, joyful ending is her dying and putting herself in a place to try it all again.
That's interesting. I didn't.
Do you guys want me to like fuck with you even more, especially to this artifact ending? So I forgot I put this in my notes, but I want to just shout out to user a post for Isaac from Reddit. When I was doing research on Isle of the Dead, this was his thoughts on Isle of the Dead. I'm bringing it back to the paintings, guys. It's becoming more meta.
Let's go back.
It's becoming more meta-textual. So he says, throughout the game, the painting Isle of the Dead by Arnold Bookland is featured repeatedly. The painting works well thematically, as both the characters in the painting and Ariane and Elster are seemingly trying to reach death. But there's another more meta aspect to the painting. There are multiple versions of it. So apparently there's 5 versions of Isle of the Dead, to be exact.
5 Elsters, no.
The painter kept painting different versions of these characters trying to reach death, but ultimately never getting any closer. There are slight variances between the paintings, but the core idea remains the same. I don't think I need to explain how this relates directly to the events of the game. So yeah, he thought it was a cool little detail is what he was going on about. But 5 Elsters, guys.
5 Elsters, no.
5 Elsters trying to reach death.
Also, I haven't seen the cutscene in a minute, but fake out cutscene. How many repeated Elsters are there in the when they're doing the loop thing from the Evangelion thing where they're like all looking?
Oh, it's totally 5, isn't it? It's totally.
It might be. I don't know, but if it is, then oh my god, it's over.
5 or 6, it's something like that.
Wasn't Elster, right? Isn't one of them like someone? Isn't one of them Falca or something?
No. So one of them's Elster, the other is I think Alina.
Yeah, I think there's Falk there too, and not Alina. It's Alina's friend. Either Lilith Itoy or Huang.
Lilith, that's her name. Oh my god, we didn't even talk about the name Lilith. Yeah.
Well, I thought it was
Lilith,
Erica. No, wait, that was probably the mother.
yeah, Lilith's the sister. Lilith.
Right.
We can talk about Lilith if we want to talk about Lilith.
Holy
But
shit.
I don't know. I kind of have to. I don't know, Daniel. I think I kind of have to disagree here. Like the indomitable human spirit is kind there, but at least for me, if there could be a heaven for these guys, at the very least, I'd want them to achieve it. You know, I wouldn't want them to have to suffer and die over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like, I think that's almost too cruel to them, too unfair, right? And that could service the game's themes, truly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. If there's a good ending possible for these guys, I want them to achieve it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think I have to go more with Joel's train of thought. At least that's what I got from it. But in terms of what's real and what's not, I like to think of it more as like, maybe like the earlier levels, at least until you get to nowhere, are all kind of like legitimate to a degree.
Yeah, I agree.
And then and then at some point, I think it like transitions to it. I think like reality starts breaking, but maybe it's like unreality breaking into reality. It's
I agree with that. I'd say we never truly enter a dream, if that makes sense. I would say that we enter an unreality, where I still think that the people within Rotfront, the suffering replicants and all that, are real, like pieces taken from the Sierpinski and stuff like that. And the geography and the topography of Rotfront is taken as well from the Sierpinski. Like all of that. It's just twisted so far beyond that it's almost unrecognizable as an unreality, right? But those pieces were still taken from somewhere. It's not like you just suddenly fell asleep and like, oh, I'm here now, kind of thing. It's more. I don't know. I always got a feeling that was more tangible than that. Like, there's an absolute twisting of reality instead of like a step into something that already existed in someone's mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you can see that with Adler as well, as he like slowly deteriorates, right? He is being slowly like twisted and shaped. This thing from the outside is being ripped apart on the inside.
Yeah. I don't know. There's so many different ways I can look at this game. Like, it's so smartly done. This is a game that I'm gonna look back on, and like I'm gonna have probably a different perception as time goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Final thoughts, guys.
On Signalis as a whole? Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
Wait,
or I guess
we
on
want
the
to talk
ending
about the red
discussion.
eye.
Oh wait, we forgot about the red eye. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. It's a storm over Rotfront, right? Natural storm, but the locals assigned meaning to it. They created a god out of it, or I believe the term is like for negative associations with it. They associate with bioresonance, which I would argue is kind of a neutral, but like it's an egregore or a thought form, essentially, that became more powerful because of bioresonance, at least in my read of it. You know, because people believed in it, it became stronger. And then throughout the game, I think it's pretty easy to put together that the red eye may not be Arion, like not in the real world completely, it's Arion, but like in this dream or unreality, it is
the
her.
red eye is like
it's at least synonymous with her and her bioresonance.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of see it as like an eldritch god of sorts that's been given meaning. I don't know. Like maybe
it's definitely an eldritch god, but that's Arion in this reality. She's the one who's beyond understanding and melding and shit.
I can see that, but also a part of me likes to look at the red eye, and I mean, I don't think this is what the game is trying to get at. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I also see the red eye as like its own entity that is the oppressor.
Oh no, you have an argument there because of all the King in Yellow stuff that's been thrown around. Like that's and the Shining Carpet stuff like that. Stuff like that feels like something that Ariane wouldn't know about. Like the King in Yellow, for instance. I mean, sure, she works at a bookstore, but like, I don't know. I feel like the totalitarian nation would not allow a book like that to just exist. Period. Point blank. I know she had banned books, but like for it to
That
be
one,
that
I feel like
specific,
they would have gotten to that one.
yeah, for it to
Yeah.
be that specific and that much of a wink at you, like, hey, there's eldritch forces beyond,
The human imagination.
yeah, that could feel like something like a red eye looking at you, the player, and being like, haha, I'm gonna fucking torture these guys. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, this red eye is trippy.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
Yeah, Felix, you go. I've been talking way too much.
no. I don't know. I feel like this game has just so many different levels to it. It's difficult to really concretely say that there's one answer to any of these questions.
Yeah. What do you think about the endings, Felix? Like, are you in my camp, Daniel's camp, your own camp? What you got?
I feel like I'm more in yours, like but I don't know. It's very difficult to say. I really like the promise ending, but I definitely see the arguments for that just being where another loop starts.
Yeah.
So
it's all good food for thought. But fellas, I think it's that time to transition to wrapping up this entire season. So I must ask, what do you guys think of the game overall? Like, not just in terms of story, but also like in terms of like a horror game that you loved, maybe just overall like pacing, mysteriousness, like any like emotions that you got out of it, puzzles that are on your mind.
I mean, honestly, speaking frankly, dog shit game. I only did this to podcast. joking, of course. I mean, I've said it enough, but I'll say it again. People behind Rose Engine, Yuri, and who the fuck? Babs on Twitter. I don't know. Barbara, I think, full name. I'm exposing myself as a lowly Twitter user. I mean, X user. My bad. Geniuses. Full stop. I think
Yeah.
that they're
Definitely,
the best
absolutely.
teams working right now. They have created for their first game. By the way, this is their first game at the development studio.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to top it. I'm so excited to see
Yeah,
them top
so
it.
excited to see what they have next.
Genuinely, masterful piece of horror, masterpiece of like just general artistry. Even with the nowhere segment, this game is a 10 out of 10, 20 out of 20. Angry Joe, anger seal of approval or whatever. Wait, what is his thing on his show?
Angry
I haven't
Joe.
seen.
Blast in the past.
Angry Joe.
Yeah, I haven't seen Angry Joe in like 5 years. What is it? Oh, it's the badass seal of approval or whatever.
Badass.
Yeah, no, this game is phenomenal, and I don't think I can spend time talking about. I think we spent close to 6 hours now talking about this game.
Yeah.
Not many games can do that. I couldn't spend 6 hours talking
Definitely.
about a Call of Duty or anything like that. This is a true landmark achievement. And if you're listening to this Rose Engine, which you're not, unless you are, in which case, hey, hi guys, you guys are great, love y'all. Great job. This is awesome. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Rose
Definitely.
Engine. Personally, I really adored this game, and I've only in the past 2 years started to get into horror-based games. I started out with like Resident Evil 2 remake. This is already like shot up into like my top 10 games of like all time. Like
Definitely.
where in
Same.
there, I'm not sure. I'd
Definitely.
have to sit down and write it out, but like the pacing is awesome. My investment was like constantly had with this game. It was creepy. It actually made me unsettled to walk into like room after room after room and face like enemy. But I needed to know the end. Like it's like it's how like I felt with Coraline, or like how many kids feel with Coraline. Like it's so scary, and like I'm not easily scared. I feel like I can play most horror games and laugh it off, but like I truly felt the dread. But the story was phenomenal, and I needed to keep going, and that really says a lot. I haven't felt that way at all, if not at all, but like maybe even just in a very long time.
I want to ask Jack before. Sorry for cutting Felix and Daniel off, but because you guys got to talk about this game too. We got to glaze. Jack, you played Silent Hill 2, right?
I did, yeah. So I played Silent Hill 2 a year after my first playthrough of Signalis, and then I
Yeah.
played Signalis again a couple
Least the
months after Silent Hill
atmosphere,
2.
like the creeping dread of this game, not almost exactly the same. Like I feel the same when I boot these games up, where like nothing to me is like abstract, like jump out of your pants, like jump scare scary. But when I turn them off, I am like stressed out for the rest of the day a little bit. It is,
Yeah,
know.
I don't necessarily know if I feel that way towards it because usually I don't feel so scared about these things.
Yeah.
Silent Hill 2 definitely holds like a good place in horror for me. Like it is something I constantly think about. I've been thinking about replaying this game again, having been talking about Signalis. Um, but Silent Hill 2 is like an examination of the characters. Sorry, both games are an examination of the characters, I should say. I don't know what the difference is for me, honestly, but like Silent Hill 2 walking into a room, like I felt dread,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's like Signalis just happened to get there first for me.
Oh no,
To
Mhm.
that
it's
feeling. So like
probably
Signalis, because I played that first, the dread felt more apparent to me. And
horrible.
I really had to like work myself up to go into rooms. Like,
Yeah,
just I don't know
absolutely.
what it is. I think maybe it has to do with the camera angle a bit because Silent Hill 2 does such a good job with the sound. I do feel off put. However, I'm also kind of a dum dum unless I visually see something. So like maybe I didn't pick something up on my first because on my second, I'm starting a second playthrough of Silent Hill 2. I did the opening again 5 days ago when my girlfriend was in town just to show her. And like I've actually listened more to the sounds around me. My first playthrough of a game, I'm usually like run through it. I gotta get to the end. I have a one track mind, and then like my second playthrough is like I appreciate something more.
No, that's high
Signalis
praise
with
though
with
for
with
Signal.
with yeah with the top down perspective of Signalis, things were put up in my face, and I couldn't see as far as I'd liked. You know,
Yeah.
like with a behind the shoulder perspective, that's most games these days, especially like Silent Hill 2 doesn't do it all the time. It's got a fixed camera, but like it's usually behind stuff. Signalis was like top down, so like I am looking down on this, and I'm like, what is happening down there?
Yeah.
Mm.
All right.
This game was
Yeah.
such a mind fuck, and I was constantly scared, even just like saving the game. Like that sound effect, just like, oh, sends shivers down my spine. I was dying.
Dude. Yeah. What'd you
But
think, Troy?
overall, the puzzles, I loved like all of them. They were all just so much fun to get through, and the pacing as well. Like you guys were saying, is just absolutely like insanely good, and yeah, perfect game.
I didn't play Elden Ring until about 9 months after it came out. And as I was playing through it, I kept thinking to myself, "This is the greatest game I've ever played." And I would often talk to Joel, and he would say, yeah, it would be my game of the year, but Signalis is just so good. I don't think I can put it above Signalis. I'd never heard of Signalis, but I mean that kind of recommendation, because Joel, you love this game. Like I don't know if you remember how you talked about it as kind of like
I
just
love
the
this
most
game.
incredible gaming experience you'd had that year. And I thought Elden Ring was pretty peak.
It is.
Slot consumer that I am, but no, then I played Signalis. My God, what a game! No, I
Yeah.
think this was a game that really is gonna stick with me for so long. I think aesthetic was perfect. The story was exactly what I want. A little doomed romance, a little, humans standing up in the face of some unknown thing. That's just my favorite tropes. The gameplay was great. The crunchy sound design, it was just all so good. It was one of those games I'm not gonna forget for such a long time, and I'm certainly gonna measure other horror games against it. It's up there for me. Maybe behind FNAF 2 or Granny 2. But it's up
I
there. It makes it
That's
uh
good.
high praise. Wow,
Daniel, here's the
impressive.
question. Does it clear Baldies?
No, I mean, what are you talking about, dude? Oh my, no. What? No. Doesn't approach the Baldy tier, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. No, it's a fantastic game. It was genuinely like the best game I played last year.
Yeah.
I've got no
Definitely.
words. It's perfect.
It's my game of the year for I think it came out in 2022.
I
Yeah.
think so. Here, yeah, you have
Same
it
year
right
as
there.
Elden Ring. I know
It's
that.
my
Okay, yeah.
2024 game of the year.
Hell
Because I
Oh,
played it
my
this year.
2023 game of the year. How about that?
yeah. One thing I'm sad about is that it should have been nominated for the Game Awards. I'm gonna be real. Game of the year. It should have been there. Geoff Keighley is a
Definitely.
hack, and he should have announced Signalis up there, and it's whatever. It's whatevs. I'm not mad.
I see this as a game that's going to like appreciate and marinate like over time, and I think it's like already got a cult following. But I think as people like time goes on and like people start like looking back at like horror games, like this one's gonna like stand the test of time.
Yeah, it's this one to me and Who's Lila are going to be like the games that we talk about in 10 years.
Little Who's Lila plug? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I will plug that game. That game is genius. I love that game. It's definitely something that if you guys liked Signalis, it's different, but in the same mind, you owe it to yourselves to play through it because it's going to capture you like Signalis did, where you're constantly thinking about what is real, what is not, iterations, loops. It is going to steal part of your brain. Guaranteed.
Yeah. Well, again, masterpiece of a game. With that, any burning questions or final comments that need to be said?
Final comments.
I
Fuck
think it's
nowhere.
just so sweet that they were able to make such a horror game, really about the love between two people. I thought it was very well done.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Reminds me of House of Leaves in that instance. Another plug.
And
Let's
fuck
go.
nowhere. And fuck nowhere.
Fuck Nowhere. True. Bad game. I forgot Nowhere was in the game when I was giving it, my glowing recommendation. 0 out of 10, negative 1 billion out of 10. Unplayable trash, too much water. Nah, great game. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you to the host, Jack,
Yes, thank
for organizing this podcast in general. I think he deserves a
Absolutely.
round of applause. I don't know if it's picking up me clapping my hands, but thank you.
Thanks, guys. No, and I do appreciate you all being here, and I want to get you guys back here as much as possible to do more of these.
Yeah.
This is a goal I have to create more podcasts. Oh, a little Discord clap soundboard. Thank you. But yeah, I guess with that, anybody want to do a little plug again for any channels or accounts?
No, I got my plug last time. I'm good. Plug the Jack Doty YouTube channel.
Yeah. Well, that's where these get uploaded. So,
Subscribe. Ring the bell. Ring the bell.
ring the bell.
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell.
Please subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think. I'll do my best to answer any questions.
Did you
But
know
yeah,
that 94% of viewers are not subscribed? This is honestly egregious. Checking our YouTube analytics.
holy shit! I did not know this was a thing.
Yeah, no, 94% of viewers are not subscribed. That means that you, dear viewer, have to subscribe and hit that like button, because then I will personally ship Jimmy Beast's head to you in a box.
We're gonna get Brad Pitt to ask what's in the box.
Yeah, and it'll be Mr. Beast.
Well, I guess without any further ado, dear viewer, thank you so much for listening. Hope to see you more again in the future. Again, please do like and subscribe. It helps supports us. And also, please do leave comments down in the comments section if you have any thoughts or questions you want us to bring up, maybe at a later Q&A date. But with that, Rose Engine, thank you for such a phenomenal game, and thank you so much for everyone for being here. With that, I'm your host, Jack, with your co-host, Joel, and our two guest stars, Dan and Felix. Take care, everybody, and hopefully you don't get kept up all night tonight, too. Bye!